Be me. Senior year of high school. It's early to mid-December and my friends and I decided to go explore a spooky trail called Blue Mist Road. Me and my 3 friends decided to go around 2 a.m. to get close to maximum spooks. A little backstory about the trail. This trail was known to be a KKK trail where they would hang colored folk. There is also a story of a witch that opened a portal to hell and her house burned down. My friends and I actually found her a year later. There's also a story about a demon that lives in the woods summoned by the witch. Anyways, we pull up to the trail entrance and began to walk in. The trail itself is about 2 miles long. When you're facing towards the trail, on the left is mostly flat with small hills going down, and to the right is nothing but a long hill. About 5 minutes in, something tells me to look to my left. When I look to my left, my attention is drawn to a tree that seems to have a shadow peeking out behind it. I originally thought that it was my shadow, but then I noticed there was no clarity to it, and it was way too high up to be mine. You know how a normal shadow, you can see through it? This one was an inky black, and you couldn't see anything through it. I called my friend Jay over and asked him if he saw what I saw, and he did. Now, knowing enough about Scooby-Doo, the moment you look away it disappears, so I told him to stare at it and make sure it didn't move. From that tree I turned to my right and saw even more of them scattered throughout the trees. I turned back to the first, and it was gone. I turned back to the others, and they were gone. I asked him what the hell happened to it, and he said it just disappeared. Cool. Fuck. We continued to walk further down the trail. When I shit you not, about halfway to the middle of the first mile, we heard drums playing deep into the woods. Tribal drums is the easiest way I can explain the sound of them. We all heard the fucking drums. That's when my other friend, John, made an excuse to leave, saying our other friend, N, was too cold, even though he said it was good. We decided to leave, and as we were walking back, we heard something in the trees. Imagine Predator, and how he used the trees to stalk Arnold and his men. It was like that. Slow at first. My friends started to freak out a bit, and I started making fun of them for being pussies because they were laughing at me for bringing a rosary and a knife. All of a sudden we heard it get right above us and they booked it, while I was standing there laughing. But I booked it after them because I know how that shit usually ends. We ran all the way back to the car and sped off. A bit anticlimactic, but it's one of those few stories I have. I told my other friends this story later, and my good bro Morg brought up a good point. If I didn't have my rosary and I didn't even have an inkling of belief in God, we probably all would have gotten got by some deer man in the woods. Sure, Anon, I'll share my story. First time green texting, so please don't hate me. Bimi, 9 years old, Woodtrekker in South Africa. Dad is an old Anglo vet, often tells me stories of the bush war. Dad clearly has PTSD. Something about his tank buddies dying as a result. He drinks a lot. Once asked him about it around the campfire, but he just looked into the fire and ignored me while sipping his brandy. Getting off topic. Grandpa had a farm in Thabazimbi, in the Waterberg mountain range. Would often hunt out there, and at my age, the biggest predator I've seen was a leopard and the occasional lion in the parks. That was, of course, before the one hunting trip. Dad and I were camping at 5 kilometers from the main farm, out on the fields. We hadn't seen much in the way of impala or kudu, so we just sort of camped out and had a chat about school. I remember packing away the .303 in the tent before coming outside again to join my dad for some sausages. Then this smell hit us. In before blood and copper. It smelled musky. Kinda like really big wet badger mixed with the smell of a civet cat. If you've been to Africa and smelled civet cat, you'd know what I mean. Since they eat chickens and shit, my dad handed me his revolver and grabbed his torch. My dad was always eager to let me shoot. Maybe he feared an uprising. We couldn't see shit in the fields, but since civet cats are small, we didn't expect anything out of the ordinary, or spooked in any way. After about 20 minutes of searching, we gave up and sat back down. My dad looked uneasy, Slightly more than usual now that I think of it. I can't remember much from after that, but what happened later that night fucked me up. I remember waking up in the tent. The smell now was fucking potent, like a civet cat was sleeping in the tent with us. There's the sniffing and shuffling outside. I turn to my dad and he's already prone with the .303. I can hear something outside licking the grease from the sausages off my dad's pen. My dad slowly slides the bolt of the .303 shut, and instantly it stops. The hair on the back of my neck starts standing up, because I knew it discovered us. I at first thought it was a leopard, but the way my father just froze in place made me realize he didn't know what it was. Then I hear the grass move slightly, as if whatever outside was coming to investigate. I can faintly make out 4 feet from the walk pattern. The way it crunches the grass told me this thing was heavy. My dad and I slowly got to our feet from the sleeping bags and took a peek through the gauze of the tent. In the moonlight, I see it not 4 meters from the tent. It looked like a hyena, but around double the size, matted fur with long legs. As it got closer, I saw patches of skin torn to hell like a reanimated dead lion hyena cross. The fear gripped me like right there I wanted to run and cry and shit my Springbok underpants. I bent down to hide, but I think I confirmed the thing's suspicion because the fucking thing starts making a low moan. Think of that low garbled blood and throat moans of the ISIS victims after he's been beheaded for being gay or Jewish. It lifted its head between the tent flaps to meet my dad's .303. I remember my ears ringing from the shot inside the tent. Don't remember much after that, but my dad and I made it back to the farmhouse. I wasn't feeling well after that, so my dad decided to cut the trip short so I can get to a therapist or something. Guess he didn't want me to become an emotional fuck-up like him. On our way back to Pretoria, there was this hitchhiker, a white Afrikaans guy with a leather bag. This being early 2000s, my dad offered him a lift. He gets in and I scoot over the gearbox. The guy says he's on his way to Bloemfontein. His dad died last night and he's basically came to say goodbye. He picked up something to remind him of his dad whilst he's here. Bloemfontein being all the way in the Free State and all. As he talks, I get a whiff of this guy's breath. Imagine what the journalist would smell like a day in the African sun after they peel their fake skin from their reptile faces. This guy asks me if I want to see what he got from his dad. Yes, sure. He zips open the leather bag from between his legs, and I almost immediately smell that same fucking smell from last night. The fucker pulls out a fucking animal ear from between the clothes. It has dark brown color attached to it, and pitch black spots. The fucking thing's the size of my thigh. My dad hits the brakes and tells him to get out. The guy looks right back in my dad's eyes, and gets out slowly, not breaking eye contact. We drove off, and I looked back through the window. My dad told me not to look, but in that brief moment I saw him still looking at my dad. I'm 28 now, and I eventually had a chat-up moment and asked my dad about the encounter, but he sometimes pretends not to hear me or that he has no idea what I'm talking about. A few years ago I was talking to my black housekeeper about the Tokolosh, and she was always smiling when I was talking about it, so I thought I'd mention this encounter, and her face looked like dread itself. In Afrikaans, which I've never heard her speak before, she basically said, "They are called bultungen. Don't talk about them. They know when you do." I'll tell an Innawoods tale. I'll green text it though. Me and 3 dudes decided to do a midnight paintball. Takes place at one friend's girlfriend's couple acre of woods. Situated so there's a driveway that more or less leads to a hill. Where then below the hill, there are woods surrounding it. This means that anyone on the tree line can see up to the hill. So it's 2v2s. Me and one guy first go into the woods for 5 minutes to set up ambushes. Then the other 2 come in. Me and friends split up. Find a great place with sight lines, but also well hidden. Feels like 10 minutes pass at this point. A minute or so later, hear some paintballs hitting the brush maybe 15 feet away. Figure they must be blindly firing into the woods from a distance away. Staring at the forest floor to keep my bearing, as it's nearly pitch dark from the canopy blocking the moon. Suddenly the ground is purple. No, like bright and purple. When I register this, I look around and notice that the woods are fairly lit up by this purple light. As soon as it's there, it goes away. Freaked out a bit, stand up straight and move about all fidgety. Decide to move closer to the tree line to see if there's any movement. Once there, I wait about a minute while crouched and see a single lone figure start going up the hill. I wait for him to go all the way up there where I then can't see him as the berm blocks the view. This must be the friend who went into the woods with me. So I go up too. No one's there. Look down gravel driveway, no figures. Walk around berm. Nobody. Then I see the other team come up. They're a bit freaked. I ask about the purple light and they freak out even more, thinking they didn't know they were hallucinating. Then they say they were at the tree line as well, and where's the other Anon? Now I freak. Who walked up? Where is Anon? Asked him if he saw the figure in the purple light. He says he fell asleep about 2 minutes into the whole thing, only just awoke. We never figure out who that other figure was, what the purple light was, or anything. Not sure if this one counts, but it was at the edge of a forest. Be me, 10 at the time, sleeping at stepdad's house during a storm. Mom doesn't want to drive home because of it, so we crash at his place. Laying on the couch in the living room. Always have a paranoia of storms due to living in Tornado Alley. Have TV on just for the noise. Stepdad is a dog breeder. Suddenly, all of his dogs start barking at something. Storm takes the satellite down. Getting a little spooked now, but brush it off as just being scared of the storm and playing too much Doom 3. Dogs start barking intensely now. Start staring down the dark hallway in his house, begin getting a bad feeling. Turn myself around so I can't look at the hallway anymore. Dogs suddenly stop barking. Getting really fucking scared for some reason now. All of a sudden hear this very deep dog growl directly behind my head. Start crying and immediately sprint down the hallway for my mum. She turns the TV onto some news channels in Texas for some sound. TV works again. Storm has stopped completely. The sound it made was like a hybrid of a regular dog sound and the sound the Capra demon makes in Dark Souls. No idea if this is possibly related or not, but it was nearby. Driving home from my stepdad's one night. Some old backcountry highway. Look up and see this massive black dog in the road. Its eyes are reflecting bright enough to create a green starburst effect. Size of a Great Dane, but with the body and face of a lab greyhound mix. Stares at us for a few seconds, then slowly walks away. Pick related his layout of the house. I know for certain it wasn't one of his dogs I heard. Sharing 2 experiences I've had that I still can't explain to this day. Be me, on a 6th grade school camping trip in the San Bernardino Mountains. Nice area with multiple lodges and cabins, filled with staff members who I presume are there year long. On the first day we hiked several trails to tour the area. Tour ends, night falls. Camping staff leads our class to the small cabin where we were spending our week. It was a cozy little cabin with 4 bunk beds and a bathroom, nothing spectacular. Unpacked my shit and got settled in. Luckily got the top bunk. Fell asleep immediately due to exhaustion. Suddenly wake up in the middle of the night feeling uneasy. Slowly open eyes to see a white ghostly hand reaching for me from the bottom bunk. Tell my classmates to stop, thinking they were pranking me. No one responds. Reach out towards the hand. Hand dissipates into thin air. Yell at the top of my lungs to wake up my classmates, thinking there was something in our cabin. Classmate wakes up and flicks the light switch on. Everyone starts asking me what the fuck is going on. Explain what I saw to them. No one else saw it. Whatever it was never showed up again for the rest of the week. The second event I remember happened vividly at home and not Innawoods. Chilling in bed with my dog, getting ready to sleep. Pass out, only to be awoken by the sound of my dog growling at something. Tell him to quit it, thinking he's just being weird. See him staring and growling at this corner in the room. Rub my eyes to look at the corner. Suddenly see this shadowy, smoky figure rising out of the ground. Dog is now full-on barking. The figure was swaying side to side like a snake would do when he's being charmed. I could feel like I was being stared at by this thing. Figure then disappears. If my dog hadn't been barking and growling at this thing, I would have chalked it up to seeing things in my half-sleep state. I don't know why it feels like these things specifically sought me out. I am not a good storyteller, but I'll share an experience I had camping. Be me, 12 and in 1993, on a Boy Scout camping trip. Suddenly awake in my tent with my troop mate who was still asleep. Something is moving silently through the camp between the tents. It passes between my tent and in the moonlight. Shadow is inhuman but bipedal. Hind legs backwards like a dog. I'm petrified with fear. Shut my eyes as it moves on. Tell my scout leader the next morning. This is a church scout group. He prays with me and tells me to keep quiet about what I saw. Live in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. Just turned 18, parents go on vacation. All alone. Mostly just masturbate and smoke weed. There's a big field leading into the woods behind my house. Sitting on the back porch listening to music. Hear a scream in the distance. Figure it's just a mountain lion, as they're known to sound like a 13-year-old girl getting murdered when they roar. Decide to go inside if a big cat's roaming about. Hear it a few more times over the next hour. Just chilling in the living room, watching random YouTube videos. Go to get something to drink and pass by the window. There's someone standing out in the field outside. Oh fuck. Go and grab a shotgun out of the closet, load a few slugs and return to the window. Motherfucker is right on the patio now. Can tell by size and build that it's probably a dude. As I'm working up the courage to go out and confront them, motherfucker lets out that same insane scream I heard earlier. Nope, not going out there now. Dude stands there for a few minutes before sprinting back into the woods. Don't sleep that night. Never see him again. What do you guys think? Monster? Or crackhead?